Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we are back again to talk with an interesting guest about a climate crisis challenge. The advent of climate change spells disaster for many regions, especially in coastal regions that could face flooding and sea level rise, and the West, where a long-term drought appears to be developing. But in some regions, particularly those reaching across the northern U.S., cities are poised for what could be a migration from struggling regions. And one city that sees an opportunity is Buffalo, New York. We're talking today with Brendan Mehaffy. He's the executive director of the City of Buffalo's Office of Strategic Planning, about how the region's geographic and weather profile make it a less prone to environmental disaster and an attractive potential destination for people and companies fleeing climate change. So let's quickly run down the data. Buffalo's average annual precipitation is 25.18 inches, part of which falls as 93 inches of snow. And it has an annual average high temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 26 Fahrenheit. At 570 feet above sea level, it's exposed to flash flooding from extreme precipitation events, but insulated from sea level rise. And is the second largest city in New York with a population of 278,000 in 2020 and 1.1 million people living in the greater Buffalo-Niagara Falls region. Part of Buffalo's challenge is to manage its growth. A key advantage Buffalo enjoys is that hydropower from Niagara Falls provides an energy surplus today, and that has attracted, amongst other startups, a $298 million hydrogen production facility called Plug Power. They also make fuel cells, and they're going to rely on hydropower to refine that hydrogen fuel. Is Buffalo a climate haven poised for growth? And how big can Buffalo get and still be a haven, particularly to the people who are already there? That question raises many questions about the goals the folks living in Buffalo have for themselves. Brendan, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, Mitch. It's great to be here. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, you know, the last thing I said there is really the key. We're looking at a lot of regions around the country that are potentially very attractive destinations during the climate crisis, but sometimes you can get too big. So why is Buffalo the right place to live in response to this question? Where is it safe to live in the long term?
Yeah, well, I think it starts by the fact that Buffalo is already a great place to live for 1.1 million people, and we enjoy all of the assets that we have here, from our built environment to our natural environment, which is really varied. But in the context of the climate crisis, we are expected to be more stable in terms of what other areas of the country and the world are going to experience. Not as extreme, although there will be greater intensity with some weather events. We have seen with Lake Erie, for instance, a real change along our lakeshore and the impact of the weather events along our lakeshore. But overall, it's not like, again, many other areas of the country and the world. So stability being obviously a critical thing for development, for where we settle. Buffalo is going to offer that. That many other areas can't. And then again, just the broader natural amenities, which, at least according to some analysis, not expecting tremendous change. Yes, change, but not tremendous change in terms of how we experience the weather today. So I think it makes it more attractive. And this isn't something that came out of Buffalo and our Chamber of Commerce or anything of that nature. It came from Harvard and other academics who were looking at areas where it might be more attractive to live in the long run.
And there are cities like Duluth, Minnesota that also fit the same criteria. And these are all going to be interesting to watch as they grow, because I actually used to live not too far from Duluth. That is not a large city. Now, but thinking about how Buffalo is planning for its future, let me just ask a couple of things about how you're going to manage the carbon footprint or the environmental impact of the city as it grows. This Erie County has exceeded, in other words, they beat their 2020 greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals by 4.5%. So it's down 36.4% compared to 2005. What's the 2030 carbon footprint goal? And will you be able to go further than the U.S.'s commitment to reduce emissions by 50%?
Well, that's the objective, and that's part of a conversation going right now, specifically about what that is going to be. So the city of Buffalo, along with the other municipalities in Erie County, are convening at as we speak, or at this time, to specifically lay that out and the strategies that we will pursue. The city of Buffalo specifically, in particular, has a strategy focused on our streetlight system, which, and it's just one of many, but that is one that we think will have a significant impact in terms of the reduction in carbon emissions. We have a very old system at this point in time, and we will be switching to an LED system, which will greatly reduce our energy consumption in the city of Buffalo. That, in addition to fleet inventory analysis and the benchmarking that we're doing right now, also building management analysis. So we have been doing a lot of this work, but we really are going to be stepping it up, so that the exact numbers will be coming out of that work that we are doing with Erie County, and we are also doing just specifically with the city of Buffalo as well.
Now, how are you going to finance that? Is that going to partly come from, say, Build Back Better funding and other stimulus that's been made available as part of the pandemic? Is it savings that you expect to be able to reap by not having climate impacts as a result of your investments?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say all of the above, because it is so expensive to do. The conversation recently about the electrification of the buses in the area as well for our school system, but also mass transit, and that significant upfront cost that is required. Obviously, true for street lighting as well. But fortunately, we're located in a state that has climate adaptation as a priority. So there are a lot of resources at the state level that we will then be coupling with money that we recently received from the federal government, and more that we expect to receive as well, plus our own resources. And there is an intensive capital infrastructure conversation that we are having right now for all of the various resources that we have. I'd also say that our Buffalo Sewer Authority has been incredible in terms of its commitment to the environment, and has sold the largest environmental impact bond in the country. So Buffalo is selling the largest environmental impact bond in the country, which will have not just benefits in terms of green infrastructure, but also the carbon reduction for its operations, which are fairly intensive as well. So it's a multifaceted approach that we're taking to it from a financial perspective.
Now, recognizing that a lot of this discussion is in process, what does the city of Buffalo look like in 2050 as you think about it?
Well, again, and I'll speak to it in more specifics, but our bicentennial is in 2032. And the Mayor Brown, who is beginning or will be beginning his fifth term very soon, will be launching a conversation with our community to talk about 2032, specifically in 10 years for our bicentennial. And what do we imagine our city to be at that point in time? I think one of the Buffalo is what is referred to as a legacy city. And as a legacy city, that comes with positive attributes, and that comes with some negative attributes in terms of our brownfields and things of that nature. But our positive attributes is that we were almost fully built out by the 1930s. And at that point in time, it was really a walkable city. And it still is. We have all of that infrastructure still in the city of Buffalo. City of Buffalo is a fairly small city geographically in terms of the political boundaries. And in this small area, in addition to our downtown, we have about 22 commercial corridors that create a really wonderful walkable environment. Some of those areas are more developed than others, and I think what we would expect is that is those that have not seen as much of the investment, that will continue in those areas as we offer the lifestyle, the walkable lifestyle, which in particular seems to be a very attractive feature for many individuals right now. And not just from a lifestyle perspective, but also from an equity perspective, which is something that is part of our decision making for all that we do. So that I think is this more density in the city of Buffalo, taking advantage of these legacy assets and the built environment that we have, and more vibrancy. So overall, great placemaking.
Well, and the city has half the population it did in the 1930s. So it sounds to me,
Right.
and it's been probably 30 years since I've been there, like you have the platform for a very walkable or bikeable city, for instance. It's fairly compact. But once you get to that vision, and Buffalo is an attractive destination, how big can Buffalo get while simultaneously supporting its environmental goals? And I guess this really raises the question of, where does the environment fit in the hierarchy of criteria for making decisions? Does it come first from now on, or is it going to be balanced against something else? And what would that be?
Well, there are in our conversations right now, as I was mentioning, for the infrastructure work that we're doing, there are three main themes. So I don't know which necessarily is first, but they're all related to one another. One is climate. So that will be part of each infrastructure and development conversation that we have. The second is equity. Again, strong overlap between climate and equity and development. And then the third is smart city and technology. And it's not always necessarily technology as well, but technology certainly drives it. So also the data and the data analysis and things of that nature. So it's not necessarily one versus another. It's really all of them that we look at, because in particular for livability, we believe that they have to be considered together. So how do we achieve objectives in each to create that livable environment that that people want to be in?
Well, now, taking that a step further, economic development is important, and you've encouraged some green tech companies to come to the city already. Is that one of the priorities that you're going to be setting? And would you say no, or rather not offer very many incentives to a company that was not green, that wanted to locate there at this point? Is the environment that important?
Well, it is. I mean, it's no question there. I think part of it is even with some of the traditional businesses, there's always also a community benefit conversation that we have with those businesses. So even though there might be incentives and public money that is invested to help facilitate the private investment in the area, there is always a conversation and agreements, community benefit agreements with many of those companies. As somebody earlier today that I was talking to, really it's a question of the utilization, how you use this to the best benefit of the community. So I don't know if it's necessarily an exclusion, but when the opportunity presents itself to really understand those community impacts, address those community impacts, and make sure that it is mutually beneficial.
Now, when a business locates in the city now, are you also going to be requiring things for them to do things like build or use green buildings, upgrade the building they're in so that it is passive rather than an actively heated or cooled building?
So New York right now is going through the process of updating its building codes. And so we will be doing that in the city of Buffalo as well. So right now it's more based upon an incentive, a carrot approach rather than the stick approach. But the regulatory system is going to change so that from a building code perspective anyway, so that the green green considerations will be part and parcel of pretty much every project that happens in New York. And that's great for the city of Buffalo as we continue to build out, that those considerations will be taken into account. And they are already for the city of Buffalo for an initiative that we did, started about a decade ago now, which is called the Green Code, where we completely restructured our development framework in the city of Buffalo. And by its title, the environment was really a central organizing theme of that initiative. And that is to utilize existing resources that we have to focus on walkability, to focus on transit-oriented development, and in particular now equitable transit-oriented development, so not just TOD, but ETOD. So we've got that kind of DNA in terms of how we lay out our city. And then it's going to the next level in terms of the building codes, but that's happening at a New York State level right now.
Now, Erie County has an equity-centered approach to its climate planning, and so looking to raise all boats. How does Buffalo influence Erie County and the state of New York? Are you actively trying to shape those policies, or are you more sitting back and letting them provide some of the guidance and seeing what you can do locally that is unique?
Well, we have a seat at the table in each of those spaces. So we are actively trying to influence those policies, but in a very collaborative way. It's really been a good conversation amongst all of us, and understanding what different resources and what different authorities each of us have. There is no way for the city of Buffalo alone to achieve the climate goals that we have. We need Erie County. We need our surrounding villages and suburbs, which we have no control over. And for some of your listeners, it's a bit different than in New York, than some other metropolitan areas where they have an opportunity for an annexation of the surrounding developed areas. We do not have that in New York. So there are many municipalities. And so in order to achieve our regional climate goals, there's a lot of people that we need to bring to the table. But that point of collaboration is critical, and we absolutely have a seat at the table with both New York State and Erie County.
Well, and it's an increasingly complex systemic problem that we're trying to solve here. So how have you done an analysis of the environmental resources available in Buffalo? And to your point about annexation, literally within Buffalo, you can't grab the next city over and make it part of your solution. How big can Buffalo get before it exceeds the local resources available to it?
We don't have an exact answer for that, I would say. And again, I think more part of it is this utilization conversation, where in particular our relationship with our surrounding rural areas, and from a food systems analysis, which has been done, and improving that connection between a fairly robust ag economy that we have in this area, and serving more of the local need, rather than that local need being met by things that are grown on other coasts and other countries and what have you. So from that perspective, there has been quite a bit of work that has been done and trying to improve those systems, and even the pandemic helped to move that along, as it did with a lot of different areas, but helped to move that conversation along, so that we could improve the system. We just recently had a fresh food market open in downtown Buffalo, and it is focused almost exclusively, everything it tries to locally source. And they do a fantastic job from local farms, but then also the breads that are sold there, baked locally, the meats, local butchers, and then it's also on top of it all is zero waste facility. So I think really we're very fortunate to be able to make that connection. But I think provides a great example to what you're talking about. So I don't think we're near capacity at all. So that really hasn't been the focus of our conversation as much as, again, is just better utilizing what we have.
And from an equity perspective, are you doing things to address food deserts within the region as well? As part of this, are you looking at urban farming, for instance? Some of that brownfield space that you've got could be turned into vertical farms, indoor farms, and so forth. How does Buffalo think about stimulating the opportunity for hyper-local solutions to food problems?
So we as part of that Green Code initiative that I mentioned, urban farming was illegal in the city of Buffalo, and you would expect that. Our development framework was from 1953, so that there wasn't much thought really at that point in time anyway to concepts like urban farming. But with the Green Code, we opened the door wide open for urban farming in the city of Buffalo, and there is a pretty robust community now that participates in that. That again was a very important part of that DNA that I talked about, that environmental component, and then working sometimes with those same urban farmers to provide, as you said, hyperlocal, right in that community, selling that produce that they're growing. We don't have vertical farming yet. We have indoor facilities for mushrooms and things of that nature, but we don't have the vertical farming yet. But there's no prohibition to it, so we'll see how it develops. And then in terms of just broadly the equity component and the food desert and things of that nature, Mayor Brown has always operated the city of Buffalo as a welcoming city for new Americans and refugees. And our population growth this past census really reflects the number of individuals, new Americans in particular, that have moved to the city of Buffalo and chosen to stay. And they have really revitalized those commercial corridors that I have mentioned. And as part of that, we are seeing a lot of markets, halal markets and other markets that provide fresh produce and other things, opening in areas that traditionally had more of a challenge in terms of access to those, in particular, healthy foods and produce. So it's kind of an unintended benefit of the opening the door and being a welcoming city. It's not a surprise, but it's also it's a strong relationship to the conversation of the food desert.
Now, you've made clear that you have a lot of resources available. But how much are citizens eager to see more people move to the community? It's a welcoming city, but as we were talking about before we started the recorded conversation, living near Seattle over the past 40 years, it's been challenging for a lot of people as the population became more concentrated. And is the city of Buffalo eager to see climate refugees headed their way?
Well, I'd say it's not just climate refugees.
In so many words.
Just generally whomever, and climate refugees of all backgrounds. And that's one of the things that I think that many, when the word refugee is used, or refuge, there's an association with particular income levels and things of that nature, where it is a wide variety of individuals that will be on the move for migration purposes.
Perhaps half the population of Florida, for instance.
That's exactly right. So I think part of it is certainly we'll take it as it comes. It was very important for us, again, with this Green Code process, it was robust community engagement, over 250 public meetings that were done by the mayor's staff with all communities throughout the city of Buffalo, very intentional about making sure that our engagement was as diverse as possible to really listen to what those issues are. And I think that's helped to lay a groundwork for investment in neighborhoods, because people now have an expectation of what it's going to look like. So from an investment perspective, a developer in the development community, when they read that Green Code, they know that we've talked to the community, and that's what the community is expecting. So it helps to facilitate, as long as they stick by the framework that we put together with the Green Code, that it makes that investment more straightforward. And a lot of that is residential. Buffalo has thousands of residential units now that we are infilling the city with.
Now, you've made clear that you have the resources, you have a plan that emphasizes the right values to continue to preserve the local environment and enhance local lifestyles. How can listeners learn more about Buffalo, the environment, and the lifestyle in the city?
Well, I'd say one thing is, and not to be too flippant with us, but just to look at where Buffalo is on a map. To begin with, and our association with the Great Lakes, and where we are in upstate New York, We are in New York, but we are nowhere better by New York City. It's a 6-hour drive to get down there. But we are closer to Toronto and part of what's referred to as the mega region, the Golden Horseshoe. So geographically to place us and to see where we are on the Great Lakes. And that really does help in terms of the climate haven conversation. That location on Lake Erie and also the prevailing winds that we get off the lake really defines our climate and that stability. So looking at the map and kind of understanding that and how even places that might even be 60 miles away, it's very different.
Sure.
So we're very fortunate with that. There's also an initiative that Invest Buffalo Niagara does called Be in Buffalo, which is great for giving a flavor of what it's like to be in Buffalo. And so I would encourage people to Google that and look at the information that they have in the videos that they have there. And then, of course, visit. One of the great things that we love is it's called the City of Good Neighbors. And when people come away from Buffalo, they always talk about how incredibly friendly this and welcoming this city is. So those are the three things I would say. After you look at the map, after you be in Buffalo, come and visit us and just kind of get a flavor of what we've going on here. Check out that great history we have with our architecture, the wonderful sunsets that we get over Lake Erie, the surrounding hillsides that we have, and the great hikes that we have, and the great natural resources. So I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Well, Brendan, I want to thank you for taking time to talk with us today.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Look forward to maybe doing it again sometime. We
will. We've been talking with Brendan Mehaffy. He's the executive director of the City of Buffalo's Office of Strategic Planning. And what we heard is a city with a vision for itself and a vision for its environment. And it's going to be critically important for the destinations that many people anticipate moving to be able to manage themselves and their growth for the outcomes that their citizens want, both current citizens and future citizens. So it's great to see Brendan and everyone in Buffalo thinking this through. We hope you'll take a few minutes to think about your community and how it can be more environmentally sustainable, as well as how it can take care of everybody in an equitable and fair way. In the meantime, I hope you'll take a few minutes to share this podcast and others from Earth911 or any environmental podcast that will make a difference to your friends, family, neighbors, and the entire community. This is Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. We're here twice a week talking to people and thinking about doing it even more often. We hope you'll give us your feedback and share this podcast. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host. We're going to be back soon. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.